sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS.
Okay, so I just screwed up a sales call, and I thought as I was reviewing it, I said, this is a mistake I made, and I thought that you guys might want to know about it because maybe you're making the same mistake and you need to fix it like I do. One of the biggest things that sales, by the way, this is Walker McKay at OBS Sales School podcast. So I am a student in the school every single day because I'm out here selling just like y'all are, and I screw stuff up, and I figure y'all ought to know about it. So one of the things that great salespeople understand is the importance of being able to make yes or no decisions on the spot. Yes or no to something. I used to tell people back when I was really focused on this that I didn't like to work with flat-headed squirrels. Flat-headed squirrels, you say, what the hell is that? That's, when you're driving down the road and you see a squirrel go left, go right, go left, go right in front of the car, and it can't really decide, and boom, it gets run over. Well, that's true for salespeople and people in general too. You got to get better at making yes or no decisions. If you're going to be good in sales, it needs to be normal to you to make yes or no decisions. So at the end of every sales call, you need to get a yes or no to something. Doesn't mean that you have a one call close. Many of us don't have one call closes. Many of you do have one call closes. You just take 5 or 6 calls to make it close. Part of that is probably because you suck at making yes or no decisions. Here's what I mean by that. If you were somebody and you're going out to make a purchase that seems big to you, for example, like, I don't know, a refrigerator or a car or something, right? It's something you spend that's, a relatively uncomfortable amount of money. And maybe you got to do a whole bunch of research. Maybe you got to sleep on it. Maybe you can do all that stuff. Well, here's the deal. Maybe that makes you an excellent buyer. Good for you. That makes you an excellent buyer, that you're thoughtful like that, but it will crush you as a salesperson. Because here's the thing. Who are we supposed to be calling on? What's their title? Every single one of us starts with a D. Decision makers. What's a decision maker's job? Make an effing decision. All right, yes or no to something. So, because if we're not, right, if we don't make yes or no decisions on the spot, if we're not comfortable doing that, then when somebody tells us, hey, I need to think it over, I need to process this, why don't you call me in a week? Or let me sleep on it, or I need to pray about it. All those things, those are fine. But I also want you to understand those are all slow no's. Studies show that 78% of people who do not say yes or no when told ahead of time, this is the decision you're going to make, they're no's 78% of the time. I wish it was 100% of the time, because then I wouldn't feel bad about just calling it over on the spot. So, salespeople out there, I want you to get more comfortable. If you're going, and this sounds ridiculous, right? But if you're going to eat dinner somewhere, decide before you go in the door, I'm going to get a steak. I'm going to get fish. I'm going to order a salad, whatever. Make that decision before you go in the door. Get better at when you need to buy a refrigerator, for example. Get comfortable walking in the door, knowing what your budget is. Pick a damn refrigerator and leave. You don't need to go to 5 stores, right? Get comfortable finding somebody you trust, have a budget you can live within, and say yes or no. See, I want it to be normal for you when people come to you that you think it would be normal. This person trusts me. And if they trust me, they can tell me yes or no. And if they don't trust me, they're going to say, let me think it over. A lot of times when somebody says, let me think it over again, it means no, you missed something. Or They're just too kind. Understand, like, but overcome objections. Bullshit. How often do you really get objections? Most of the time, you don't get objections. You know what you hear instead? Sounds great. Why don't you call me in a week? Why don't you call me next week? And then what happens? You get unlimited access to their voicemail. So I realize sometimes some of your customers are going to need to think it over. I want you to limit the time. If somebody says, hey, I really need to think this over, push back, find out a little bit more, and then say, okay, let's do this. When would you think you'd have a decision made? And they'll all say shit like 2 weeks. And well, you know what that means? That means no. So bring them back and say, let's do this. If you're not sure you want to do this by, say, tomorrow at noon or tomorrow at 5 o'clock, if you're not saying, hell yeah, let's call it a no. Let me back up. I am not. Here's the thing. I am asking for and pushing for a no. Because we're not the right fit for everybody. I'm not, and I know neither are you. You're not the right fit for everybody. As soon as you try and convince somebody to come work with you, you are screwing it up. You need to come up with all the reasons why it doesn't make sense for them to work with you and tell them. Let them overcome those objections. But here's how this really works, is at the beginning of the call, which is where I screwed this up today, you got to be able to say, why don't we figure out whether or not it makes sense for us to move forward, which means you might pull out your credit card, spend some money. Right? That's what I say. Maybe you'd say at the beginning of the meeting, what are we going to figure out today if we both think this is a good thing? And then recap it. Make sure everybody's comfortable with that. Say, are you sure you'll be able to tell me yes or no? If they tell you at the beginning, I'll have to think it over, then say, okay, and then limit the time. If you're not sure you want to do this, if you can't say hell yes by the end of, by noon tomorrow, 1 o'clock tomorrow, let's call it a no and be comfortable with that. It's okay. You're not going to get everybody. A quick no is so much better than a damn long no. Long no's suck. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. I hope you learned something today. I hope you will give somebody a yes or a no today. I hope you will expect your prospects to tell you yes or no. And I want you to push for a no and be okay with no, because no is often the right answer. Thanks for listening. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.